Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving headfirst into a story that's all about high-stakes strategy, fierce competition, and honestly, a mind-boggling amount of financial risk in the world of AI. We're talking about OpenAI's big new move, GPT-5.2, and why it's such a massive, massive gamble. So, where does this all kick off? Well, it starts with two simple but really powerful words that were reportedly bouncing off the walls inside OpenAI: code red. And when you hear a phrase like that, it signals a crisis. This was never just about another routine product update. No, this was a full-blown response to a huge looming threat. And that, right there, is the real story here. We're not just talking about some cool new tech. What we're actually witnessing is a strategic, all-out battle for dominance. This is OpenAI in a bare-knuckle fight to reclaim its throne at the very top of the AI food chain. So let's dive in. Okay, so first things first. What in the world could trigger a code red at a company like OpenAI? Let's peel back the layers and look at the intense pressure they were facing, the kind of pressure that forces a response this big. You have to understand, the battlefield had totally changed under their feet. On one side, you've got OpenAI, and they're starting to see some worrying signs, right? ChatGPT traffic is dipping, they're losing a bit of their grip on the consumer market. And then you look over at the other side, and there's Google, just surging ahead. Their new model, Gemini 3, was just crushing the leaderboards, and they were weaving it into everything, their entire massive ecosystem of products. The heat was on big time. So what happens next? Well, according to reports, all this pressure leads to an internal memo from the CEO, Sam Altman himself, and the message was apparently crystal clear. This is a code red. The number one concern? Losing ground to Google. That meant everything else had to change. Priorities got completely reshuffled. Things that were on the table, like introducing ads, those got pushed way to the back burner. The single, solitary focus was now, make a better, more competitive ChatGPT experience, and do it yesterday. And that, of course, brings us to their big answer. So let's break down what this strategic countermove, GPT 5.2, is all about. OpenAI's chief product officer, Fidji Simo, put it pretty directly. What's interesting about her framing is that it signals a really clear focus. This isn't just about winning back casual users. It's about professional and enterprise value. This wasn't about a popularity contest. This was about shipping powerful tools that create real economic value. So what is GPT 5.2? Well, think of it like this. It comes in 3 different flavors, each for a different job. First up, you've got Instant. Just like the name says, it's all about speed for your routine, everyday stuff. Then there's Thinking, and this one is really the heart of their whole strategy. It's designed to crush complex, structured work, think coding and heavy-duty math. And finally, you have Pro. This is the top-of-the-line, absolute beast of a model for when you need the highest possible accuracy on the most difficult problems out there. But what does that mean for you in practical terms? Well, OpenAI is basically saying this new model is a massive leap forward for anyone doing serious work. We're talking about getting way better at things like whipping up spreadsheets, building presentations, and, this is a big one, writing and debugging code. They're also saying it's much better at actually perceiving images, understanding really long documents, and maybe most importantly, connecting the dots on complex, multi-step projects. And honestly, that last point is the real key here. The whole argument for GPT 5.2, the very heart of it, isn't just a laundry list of new features. It's about a fundamental, deep improvement in the model's core strength, its power to reason. And what's really fascinating is how they're not shy about it. They are taking their rivals head-on. Just look at this chart. On the key benchmarks for reasoning, which, by the way, are their own benchmarks, they're showing their thinking models squeaking just past Google's Gemini 3 and Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.5. This is them planting a flag. This is their claim to the throne, built on being better at logic, coding, and science. So you might be looking at this and thinking, okay, but why the obsession with math scores? I'm not an engineer. Well, according to OpenAI's own researchers, it's not really about solving equations. Mathematical reasoning is a proxy. It's basically the best test we have to see if an AI can follow complex, multi-step logic and, critically, avoid those tiny little errors that can balloon into huge problems down the line. And that, right there, shows you why this matters so much, especially for their target audience in the business world. Better reasoning isn't just an academic exercise. It translates directly into high-value applications. We're talking about more reliable financial models, way deeper data analysis, much sharper forecasting, and, the holy grail for a lot of companies, writing production-grade code that you can actually trust and depend on. And they're not just being vague about it. They actually put a number on this improvement. OpenAI is claiming that their thinking model makes a whopping 38% fewer errors than the last version. So the takeaway here isn't just that it's smarter. The real story is that it's designed to be more dependable, more trustworthy for the kind of work you do every single day. Okay, so reclaiming the top spot on the leaderboards with a super powerful new model, that's one thing. But paying for it, that is a whole different ballgame. And this is where we get into the really high stakes part of the story, because this AI arms race is unbelievably expensive. I want you to just let this number sink in for a second. $1.4 trillion. That is the reported figure OpenAI has committed to for just building out its AI infrastructure. I mean, the sheer scale of that bet is hard to even comprehend. It's the kind of bet they made back when they were the undisputed king of the hill with a huge first-mover advantage. And you have to remember, that insane number is just the upfront cost, the investment to get in the game. But there's another constant, ongoing cost to staying in this fight. It's something you could call the vicious cycle of compute. Here's how it works. The most powerful AI models, the ones that get you to the top of the leaderboards, are also by far the most expensive to run. So to even have a chance at winning, you have to spend a fortune on compute just to train the thing. But then, once you've won, you have to spend even more money to let millions of people actually use your expensive model. Winning, it turns out, is a very, very expensive habit. And check this out. Here's a really revealing little tidbit from some recent reporting. It looks like OpenAI is now paying for most of its compute power with cold, hard cash, not just the cloud credits they get from partners. Now, what does that tell you? It suggests their costs have ballooned so much that even their big partnerships can't cover the bill anymore. The tab is getting real, and it's coming due. So we've talked a lot about logic and reasoning, because that's where GPT-5.2 is focused. But there's another part of the story, a key area where the battleground is already shifting, and it's pointing us toward the next major frontier in this AI war. Think about it. In this massive launch, this huge counterattack against Google, there is one key weapon that is glaringly, conspicuously missing from OpenAI's arsenal. And what is it? A state-of-the-art image generator. It's just not there. At the same time OpenAI is launching 5.2, Google is making huge waves with its new Nano Banana Pro model. You've probably seen it. It's gone viral for its insane realism and its ability to render text perfectly. This is a major, obvious gap in what OpenAI is offering right now, and you can bet Google is pushing that advantage for all it's worth, baking it into all their products. So that leads to the obvious question. What's the next move? Well, the rumor mill is already churning. People are talking about another new model coming as soon as January. And what's the speculation? Well, it seems like the next release will be aimed squarely at closing that big image generation gap, while probably also boosting speed and maybe, just maybe, adding a little more personality to the mix. One thing's for sure, this fight is far, far from over. And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on. You've got OpenAI, who just bet the farm on raw intelligence and logical reasoning. Then you have Google, which is making these incredible strides in creative power and weaving everything together. So in this unbelievable AI race, what's going to matter more in the end? Raw intelligence or creative power? That, my friends, is the billion or maybe even $1 trillion question.